In this video, I'm going to illustrate how EventSentry can help companies of all sizes, but especially small and medium-sized companies with their efforts to become CMMC compliant. But before I go into the details on how EventSentry can help you with CMMC compliance specifically, I want to just explain briefly how EventSentry can help you with pretty much any compliance requirement, such as PCI, HIPAA, CMMC, NIST, ISO, and so forth. Here I just picked 4 different compliance requirements, randomly more or less: PCI, HIPAA, CMMC, GDPR, so those are fairly common. And you can see on the bottom right, I've also listed ISO 2700, NIST, and SOC2. And normally those are all grouped together. So when you look at various websites that list compliance frameworks, PCI, HIPAA, CMMC, NIST are usually all grouped together. But I separated them because there's a slight difference in the motivation that's behind a compliance requirement. So when we look at PCI, for example, PCI has a simple goal, which is to protect cardholder data, credit card data. They don't necessarily care how that data is being protected. They just want to make sure that credit card information is not leaked and obtained by unauthorized individuals. So every compliance framework on the top usually has a goal of protecting certain information, right? With HIPAA, we want to protect health information, patient data. CMMC wants to protect federal contract information or CUI data as well. GDPR wants to protect personal data, data of employees, and so forth. And how to do it is usually very, very similar. So the approaches to become PCI compliant are going to be similar to the approaches to become CMMC compliant. They're not the same, but the overall basic foundation is going to be the same. You need security, integrity, confidentiality, and so forth. NIST, ISO, and SOC2, on the other hand, they don't have the specific goal that the PCI would have to specifically say, for example, we want to protect cardholder data, although that's somewhat implicit. But instead, if you are NIST compliant, for example, then that will help you tremendously towards PCI compliance. And the same goes, of course, for CMMC and all the other compliance requirements. That's why I didn't list them necessarily on the top. And EventSentry, with its ability to monitor logs in real time, to provide you with a lot of visibility into your network, including integrity, including system monitoring for availability, and so forth, of course, helps with any compliance requirement that's out there, whether that's PCI, CMMC, or with security frameworks like NIST, ISO, or SOC2. But now let's take a look at how EventSentry can help you with CMMC compliance specifically. A great place to start with CMMC compliance in EventSentry are the CMMC dashboards. And EventSentry ships with 2 CMMC dashboards, one for level 1 and one for level 2. There's no separate dashboard for level 3 since level 1 and 2 pretty much cover most of the items that EventSentry covers in CMMC. So if you just open or navigate to the EventSentry web reports and go to dashboards, then you should have the CMMC version 2 level 1 and level 2. If you do not have those, then you can simply click on that little dashboard icon here, click on import, and select the CMMC dashboards from the list here. So they're already imported here, so they don't show up. But for example, if you want to get TSACs here, then you would just click that and import that dashboard. What that does is it will import, of course, the dashboards, and will also import the underlying reports. And I'm going to get to that in a little bit. So with those 2 dashboards, you have some key metrics about your CMMC compliance right here on one screen. We've got on the top 4 different columns, and they explain what the individual tiles should look like. And of course, there's also an indication with green and red telling you if something is good or not. So in the very left column, we have validation checks. Validation checks are essentially a compilation of individual checks that look at registry settings, security settings of your servers and workstations to make sure that they're correctly configured and securely configured. Examples would be, are insecure protocols allowed, or empty passwords are allowed, are servers and workstations on the latest patch, and so forth. So here we've have a validation for domain controllers, for servers and workstations. We also have a tile for audit policies. So auditing is, of course, extremely important for any compliance framework or requirement. And what this does is make sure that you're auditing the correct things. If we're not auditing logons, for example, then there's really no point in even evaluating certain conditions such as failed logons, for example, right? Or for example, group changes and so forth. So Audit policies is very important. We want to make sure that's green. Then we have a status column where it simply says review these tiles regularly. So we have a domain users total. This is a test network, of course, only 6 users, and then domain admins. So this is something that you can review on a regular basis. You would simply click that and see the number of domain admins. Then we have a column for activity. So again, this is something you want to review on a regular basis. You can see changes to the group policy, you can see changes to computer accounts, and so forth. If there have been changes, then that tile is going to expand. I'm going to show a number. You can simply click on that number and review the reports. And here in the fourth column, we have recommendations. Those are not necessarily mandated by CMMC, but they are recommendations, general security practices to follow, such as are there any Windows updates that are not installed? Is a firewall inactive? Is antivirus inactive? And so forth. So the whole purpose of these dashboards here, of course, is to make CMMC a little bit more useful. So rather than just giving you access to reports that run and save these reports in some network location for later review, so these actually give you useful, actionable information that will not just satisfy CMMC compliance, they'll help you make your network or keep your network secure, and also be able to review that on a regular basis. So rather than just saying, okay, I'm CMMC compliant as of December 1st, you can actually review this every day and see, okay, has a system fallen out of compliance, or has a new system been brought into the network that's not compliant. So it's extremely useful, and as soon as you have an agent on that server, you're set. It's going to be incorporated. It's going to show up on this dashboard. And finally, on the bottom here, we have a few more tiles that give you information about admin console logouts and domain controllers, admin console logouts on servers, and workstations. So this is a good starting point. This doesn't cover everything, of course. And like I said, we have 2. So if you have to be a CMMC level 2 compliant, then you have a very similar dashboard with different checks. So here we're looking at different validation scripts, for example, and other things that are mandated by CMMC version 2. If you have to be a CMMC version 2 compliant, then you have to look at both dashboards, version 1 and version 2. Now, since validation scripts build the foundation for most compliance requirements in EventSentry, we're going to take a closer look at the validation scripts in EventSentry. So of course, here we have a number, we can click on it, but if you want to dig a little deeper, then we can access the validation scripts directly. And you do that by going to Features, Validation Scripts, and Current. And of course, the key thing we want to look at here are the tags. So if we click on Show All here, then we can see a number of CMMC tags here. And we have desktop and server times 3 for level 1, level 2, and level 3. Now let's just say we wanted to look at level 1 validation scripts for servers. So we can click that tag. And we can see on the left here, we have 3 different types of computer objects. We have servers, workstations, and domain controllers. Since we're looking at the server tag, we're going to exclude workstations. And now we're down to 347 scripts that we can take a look at. And of course, we have other script tags to look at here as well. And this is kind of underlines the point I was trying to make earlier. So something that helps for NIST, for example, will also help for CMMC and also help for PCI, for example. Now we can go and say, okay, here we have results, pass and fail. We can see that most of the scripts passed, but we still have 138 that failed. So we're generally interested in failed scripts, so we can click and exclude the past scripts, and now we only have failed scripts. And if you take a look at here, then we can see, oh, we actually have just 8 different checks that failed. Now, there happen to be 138 of them because we have 25 computers that are affected by these scripts. But overall, there's just 8 things that we have to fix. Here are some Docker machines. These are mostly for testing purposes. So let's take a look at the domain controller here. That makes it a little bit easier. Then we can click on detailed. And now we have 3 scripts that failed. And we can click on any one of them. For example, this one here. And it will tell us, okay, it's the description. Windows Defender Smart Screen must be enabled on a server. We can see the actual output from the script. Sometimes that contains important information. We can see that it executed okay, that it ran for 0 seconds. We can see again all the scripts, and we can click on remediation steps to learn a little bit more about this check, have again a more detailed description and steps on how to remediate that and some documentation behind it. And this way you can easily navigate through all the scripts that have failed. Once you make the setting or once you remediate it on a group policy object, for example, then it will usually cascade down to more computers. So as you fix them one by one, the number of failed entries is gonna go down significantly. And finally, you can also look at the reports in EventSentry. So I have this open here already. You can find this, of course, under Reports Compliance. If you click here, you can see all the compliance reports that are installed in EventSentry. There's a number that are supported. Here we have CMMC version 2, and it automatically includes all 3 levels. So we have a section level 1, level 2, and level 3. We also have NIST enabled, and if you click on Modify Requirements, then you can import other compliance frameworks here. Now let's just take a look at some examples here. We have level 1, for example. We already looked at the validation scripts, but you can basically run this here again. So this is a pre-made report. So if you click on Run here, we'll see that it looks at both desktop and server scripts, and we have an output here. And then we can go into the summary and then customize this further. For example, like I showed earlier, just saying, okay, we're not interested in the ones that passed. We're just interested in the ones that failed. But back to our compliance reports. There's a few more that we can take a look at. For example, here we have the actual section in CMMC that this applies to, the description of the CMMC requirement, and the associated reports. Here we can see that this report ran last today. And if you click on Run, then, for example, computer account changes, I can just click on Run here, and you have no results because we don't have any computer account changes that were made. You can automate these reports by creating jobs or by setting a review period. For example, we can say, okay, we have these reports here, but we want to make sure they're reviewed every week. So we can click on Review here and say, okay, we require a review. And we can say once a month or once a week. Once we do that, we have a review period set of 1 week. That means that report has to be run at least once a week. And if it does not, it will show up in this list as being overdue. And you can also create tiles for a dashboard that will show you overdue reports. You can also create a job for a particular report. So we could go in here, click Edit, and we can say Create Job. So what that will do, it will email us, for example, a job on a regular basis, let's say every day. You can pick between HTML, CSV, and PDF jobs. In most cases, if you get it emailed, HTML is usually the best option. But if you want to store the reports, for example, on the disk, then you can pick PDF or CSV. So if I switch this to HTML, we can also make the job intelligent. We can say only send this report if there are actual results. So rather than getting 5 or 10 or 15 empty emails every day or every week, you can say, well, only if there's more than 0 do I want to get this report emailed to me. Then we have simply a sender here, a recipient. We can set things like subject and the message, the frequency of the report, and simply hit save. And now this report, of course, we have a recipient here. So we'll say compliance at EventSentry.local. That does not exist, but that is okay. We'll hit save. And now we automatically redirected to the jobs page where we can see all the jobs that are listed. It tells us the name of the job, which is actually the name of the report, and how often that job runs. And if you go back to our compliance page, then we can also see that a job is associated with that report, and we can also click here to get back to the jobs. And here you can edit the jobs, the recipients, how often they run, and so forth. The purpose of CMMC, of course, is to keep defense data and contractors secure. So in addition to everything I've showed here, I do encourage everyone who uses EventSentry to also explore some of the other functionality that EventSentry offers. Starting on the top left here, we have the IP and user activity pages, for example, where you can see what EventSentry knows about a specific IP address or about a user activity. So you just enter an IP address, for example, or a host name or a username, and EventSentry will search all of its pages, all of its data to see, okay, what do I know about this user? Where did he log on to? Which processes did he start? Are there any scheduled tasks associated with that user? Has that user been changed? Etc., etc. Then in the logon activity section, we have a number of pages that help you with seeing more about logon activity on your network, whether that's member servers or domain controllers, logon failures, the types of logons that are occurring, console logons, and so forth. Process activity shows you which processes have been started, which processes are running, which processes are listening for incoming network connections, and the Sysmon integration shows you which process is accessing which IP address on which port on the internet. And of course, a number of health features for general system monitoring, but also with inventory features where you can see which scheduled tasks and services exist on your network, and also the history. So great for reviewing what has changed in the last 24 hours, last hour, etc. Have any services been created, drivers been installed, and so forth. So these are all features that are very relevant for security. ARP daemon can show you which network devices are actually active on your network. NetFlow gives you insight into network activity, usually as it's passed through your firewall or router. Audit policy, where you looked at with CMMC, shows you which audit policy settings are actually active in your network. Permission inventory lets you see which permissions are assigned to which users on select NTFS volumes, folders, file checksums, and file access. A little more insight into file activity, system integrity. And of course, we have a whole AD monitor component, which gives you complete insight into anything that's happening in Active Directory, any object changes, all users, groups, and computers that are present in Active Directory. And finally, a number of inventory features, all installed software, patches, browser extensions, as well as hardware. Again, very relevant to see, okay, which browser extensions are used in your network, which patches are installed or hosts on the latest patches, what software is currently installed, and what software was installed in the past. CMMC is really a great foundation, but really encourage everyone who runs EventSentry, all these features, with the exception of AD monitor and NetFlow, are included in the product at no extra charge. So really take advantage of those to increase the security of your network.